Good evening. Welcome to the December 2nd, 2025 Millbrae Special City Council meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Nguyen.
Here.
Councilmember Riley.
Here.
Councilmember Rinaldi.
Present.
Vice Mayor Holliver.
Present.
Mayor Fung.
Here.
All members of City Council are present.
Thank you so much. And please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance if you're able. Thank you, and please be seated. I think I should start with public communication. If anybody wishes to speak on any item this evening that is not on tonight's agenda. Do we have anybody? Seeing none? Anyone online?
No, Mayor.
Okay, all right. So closing public communication this evening. We'll move right into the one and only item this evening, which is a public hearing. And it is to consider an appeal of a planning commission decision determining the abandonment of a non-conforming warehouse and distribution use at 370 Adrian Road on property zone retail commercial in the Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan, MSASP. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Tom Williams, City Manager. I will just hand it over to our Community Development Director, Mr. Andy Mogensen, for the staff presentation, but I think perhaps the City Attorney may have a question.
I just want to also note for the record that tonight the City Council will be represented by Ms. Droanne Tran, who is on the Zoom, and I will be advising staff in this matter. And first off, I don't know if the mayor was planning on doing this, but I just wanted to make sure that if any council members have any disclosures to make.
Yeah, let me try that. So I just want to make sure we get everything set up and ready. So tonight, our one and only item is what I just described, which is public hearing on 370 Adrian Road. And we're right now as a quasi-judicial hearing, meaning that the City Council is acting in a judicial capacity to determine the facts and apply the law. And because of that, the City Attorney will be representing the City staff, and the City Council has a separate legal counsel this evening. Ms. Joanne Tran will be advising this council on procedural and the legal matters. California law requires the separation of these two roles in order to preserve the property owner's due process. Ms. Tran is presented on Zoom and is available to the council if we have any questions. Before we begin, I'd like to outline some of the procedures for this hearing this evening. And as this is a quasi-judicial matter, the City Council must base its decision solely on the evidence in the record, including staff reports, exhibits, testimonial presented tonight, and any written communications materials submitted prior to or during this hearing. The order of presentation will be as follows this evening. The city staff will present the staff report and the evidence. The property owner will then present his case. And the City Council member may ask questions on either party, and then the public hearing will then be open for public comment, if any. And then after the public testimonial, both sides will have an opportunity for the rebuttal. And the council will then close the public hearing, will go into deliberations, and then make its final decision. And the decision made by the City Council is final. And before proceeding, I'd like to ask all my council members to disclose any ex parte communications or visits prior to this hearing with regard to this particular case.
Point of clarification. Does that include having a phone conversation with the owner of 370 Adrian Road?
Yes.
Yes. So I did have about a 40-minute conversation yesterday to just hear the owner of that property, 370 Adrian Road, to hear their side of the story.
Anyone else? Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes, I met with the applicant last week in person. I think it was about a 30-minute meeting. I also spoke with the city manager over the phone about this issue as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so the applicant did call me. That was before even the Planning Commission hearing was filed. It was at least 2 or 3 months ago. And I did listen to the applicant as to what their complaint is. And That was the end of the conversation, roughly about 45 minutes or so. But that was at least 2-3 months ago now. It was before any of these hearing or even schedule or even application has been filed. So to that end, so that's all the ex parte communication there exists. Now, we're gonna limit tonight on each side presentation. The city clerk will be advising the property owner that he will have a maximum 15 minutes. And if the property owner has other speakers in addition to himself, such as land use attorney, I recommend that 15 minutes to be applied collectively to both sides. And, okay. All right, so I guess we're ready to go. And Director Mogensen.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. This is, as you said, an appeal of a Planning Commission decision determining the abandonment of a non-conforming warehouse and distribution use at 370 Adrian Road on property zoned retail commercial in the Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan. An overview, warehouse and distribution at 370 Adrian Road is currently a non-conforming use, a use that was authorized at the time it was established, but is no longer allowed. Millbrae Municipal Code Section 10.05.2420 specifies that if a non-conforming use is wholly discontinued for a period of 90 days, such use shall be deemed to have been abandoned and all future uses shall comply with the regulations of the particular district. Next slide. The location, as you can see in the zoning map here, at 370 Adrian Road, the property was rezoned with the MSASP. Next slide. A little closer detail of the subject property there along Highway 101 at 370 Adrian Road. Next slide. These photos were taken on October 20th, 2025. You can see the Lucid Motors has been leasing the property. They use the property for the parking, storage of their vehicles. You can see the vehicles are filling all of the loading docks. There are some vehicles parked on the street, and the parking lot and rear of the property are all used for vehicle storage. Those vehicles are still being stored today. Next slide. Another photo close up of the store entrance. You can see the entrance says Better For You Meals. Still has some of the COVID safety posters up. These photos are up to date, as I mentioned, recent. Next slide. Just some background. In March 2016, as I said, the Station Area Specific Plan was adopted. Upon adoption, the zoning for 370 Adrian Road changed from industrial to retail commercial. Since adoption in 2016, warehouse and distribution uses are no longer permitted in the RC zoning of the MSASP. Warehouse and distribution at 370 Adrian Road thus became a non-conforming use, which is a use that was authorized at the time it was established, but is no longer allowed. Next slide. Just some other zoning and land use background. The city received confirmation email from Revolution Foods that they vacated the Millbrae premises in June 2023, consolidating their operations to their San Lorenzo facility. Attachment 5, and the property has been leased by Lucid Motors since July 1st, 2024 as an attachment 8. We'll be talking about these and other evidence in just a little bit. Next slide. Some background, you can see the MSASP plan and the description of what the retail center land use designation is for, retaining a commercial character. This area was planned all along as a retail center with the area to the south across Adrian Road for employment and light industrial. So this has been planned, this was adopted by council, this has long been the land use since 2016. Next slide. On October 20th, 2025, the Planning Commission also held a public hearing, much like this, to determine the status of the non-conforming land use. After considering all testimony and evidence, the Planning Commission voted by 2-1 to adopt a resolution finding the warehouse and distribution land use had been discontinued for more than a 90-day period. The property owner appealed the decision, and that's why we are here this evening. Next slide. So just some background. Better For You Breakfast Incorporated, also doing business as Revolution Foods. They vacated the property in June 2023. Their lease ended June 2024. So they had a lease for the period after that without using the property. Lucid Motors began a month-to-month lease for vehicle parking in July 2024. That lease continues today as noted by the photos. Vehicles are actively parked in the parking lot within the loading docks and exterior areas around the subject property. The use of Lucid Motors on the property would prohibit or preclude other uses on the property because all of the parking spaces are being occupied, including the loading docks. And they have been since July 2024. Also, the city has registered zero water use on the property between October 2023 and February 2025. Regular measurable water use over time is a clear indicator that there are employees actively working at a business. As a rule, just as a case in point, we measure water by cubic feet. About 5 flushes of your average toilet will trigger a number change on that water meter from hypothetically 1 to 2, 2 to 3, whatever the number is. So that's all it takes is just 5 flushes for us to register. Next slide, please. Ocean View Marine Products applied for a business license in October 2024, but no business license was issued because the application was not completed. The property owner, Edward Kwan, and tenant, Ocean View Marine Products, demonstrated an intent to abandon the previous warehouse and distribution use by failing to respond to the city's multiple requests for fire department inspections. Next slide. Staff requested supporting documentation from Ocean View Marine Products to demonstrate an active business use. Prior to the Planning Commission meeting, the Ocean View Marine Products provided invoices to the city on October 10th. A copy of those invoices are in your packet with attachment 7. The first invoice from Ocean View, dated Thursday, November 28th, 2024, was Thanksgiving Day. That is 150 days from July 1st, 2024, which is beyond the 90-day period identified in Millbrae Municipal Code Section 10.05.2420. Given the lack of water usage and the dates, holiday and weekend in those invoices, staff did not find these 7 transaction records constituted substantial evidence of business activity. Next slide. A visual time frame of the events that occurred. This is identified in your packet as well in the staff report. You can see in this time slide where we have 0 metered water usage in the property between October 2023 and April 2025. You can see the time frame when Lucid Motors leased the property from July 1st, 2024 to the present, which is also in attachment 8. And you can see that purple band is where there was clear lapse of non-conforming use that exceeded 90 days. Next slide, please. In the Ocean View Marine Products invoices are dated as noted. Random dates from Thursday, November 28th, 2024 to Sunday, May 25th, 2025. Those are all identified in your packet. Those are identified in attachment 7. Next slide. The city has made findings of fact that are identified in the resolution, the staff report, and presented here. Since the departure of Revolution Foods doing business as Better For You Meals on June 30th, 2024, no warehouse and distribution period use occurred through September 28th, 2024, which is a 90-day period of clear disuse. The property owner and Ocean View Marine Products did not follow through in obtaining a business license. There's no evidence in the record demonstrating active business transactions or employment on the subject property until the first invoice was provided prior to the Planning Commission meeting on November 28th, 2024. That is a 150-day period, which corresponds with the lack of water use registered. Slide, please. There is no metered water use on the subject property during this period, as I just mentioned, as they claim to have been in operation. If you have employees, you're going to be flushing the toilet or washing your hands. Lucid Motors, during this entire time, the car dealership across the street had been using the subject property for parking cars since June 2024. Parking of cars is not a warehouse and distribution use. During this time, the property's parking lot and loading docks have been used to store and park Lucid's vehicles, occupying the perimeter of the property, all of the parking lots, all of the loading docks. Next slide. Millbrae Municipal Code specifies that if a non-conforming use is wholly discontinued for a period of 90 days, such use shall be deemed to have been abandoned, and all future uses shall comply with the regulations of the particular district. Supporting documentation, including lease agreements, correspondence, and utility records, clearly demonstrate the non-conforming warehouse and distribution use at the subject property ceased operations for more than a 90-day period. Slide. Staff finds there is substantial evidence in the record demonstrating a clear period of disuse and a lack of business activity for the non-conforming warehouse and distribution use at 370 Adrian Road for longer than a 90-day period. And we further find that the property owner and Ocean View Marine Products demonstrated an intent to abandon the previous warehouse and distribution use by failing to respond to the city's multiple requests for inspections and consequently failing to obtain a business license. Next slide. Therefore, staff recommends the City Council review the report, consider the evidence, public testimony, and findings, and uphold the Planning Commission's determination of abandonment of a non-conforming use. Happy to answer any questions this evening.
Thank you, Director. Council, any questions for our staff based on the presentation presented? Councilmember Nguyen.
Could we go into detail on what non-conforming means? Like maybe give examples of things that you consider non-conforming?
In the zoning code, we have a list of allowed uses. When we changed the land use to the RC zoning and the MSASP, warehouse and distribution use is no longer allowed. Therefore, it becomes a non-conforming use. So if you had a warehouse prior to that zone change, and you continue to operate that warehouse and distribution use, you may continue to do so. But as soon as you cease to operate that warehouse for 90 days, your use, your allowance is extinguished. You no longer have the right to that non-conforming use. So therefore, we've identified a lapse of more than 90 days, and the use has extinguished, and it cannot continue in the future with a new owner as such use.
Right, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Rinaldi.
Just a real quick point of clarification. So the previous use before Ocean View Marine was for food processing or?
Better For You Foods was a food processor, yes.
Got it. And when Ocean View Marine came in, they had the intent of doing that, but then according to what the packet said, weren't able to follow through.
We have no clear evidence that they operated on the property, and before they even showed evidence of operating, there was a clear lapse of 90 days.
Got it. And I saw an email within the evidence stating that Central County Fire said that they wouldn't issue a business license or wouldn't issue the fire inspection because the machinery and appliances weren't there.
Yeah,
So-
that's what they said in their email, yes.
Yeah. So without that, they weren't able to get a business license.
Yeah, we don't do an inspection for a business license if you haven't moved in. That's one of the requirements. We have that happen from time to time. People call us, we go to the tenant space and they're empty. We say, well, call us back when you're ready.
Got it. Quick question for you, because I saw the invoices and before November, they didn't have any documentation of invoices. Was there any record of sales tax that was paid to the city from their operations?
We have not found any.
Okay, thanks.
So do you mean you researched it and you see none?
We have seen none.
Okay.
We have no evidence.
But you researched it and you see none?
They have none. If they don't have a business license, then how do they pay sales tax to the city?
Fair enough, okay. Anyone else? Mr. Vice Mayor?
I'll wait until hearing from the applicant before
Sure.
asking questions.
But just question for the staff, any?
I think I'll hold off for now.
Okay. Councilmember Riley.
Can you please back to one more slide? So you mentioned you request them coming to get a business license. How many times you request have them coming to get a business license?
I don't have the answer off the top of my head. It was more than once.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Sorry,
Okay, go
I
ahead.
will ask one question now. It was noted in the presentation that the Planning Commission, I think the vote was 2-1. Do we know who the dissenting vote was and what their reasoning for that was?
Commissioner Che, I would have to refer back to the tape. Said statement to that.
All right, anyone else? Okay, thank you very much, Director. And I guess we will now hear from the property owner. Would you have a representative as well, or is it just yourself?
Just myself.
Just yourself? Okay.
I don't have other lawyers, just me. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you very much for this special session of my appeal. And of course, this is not a place that we all, any one of us want to be at this point, but here we are. I think the biggest issue that I think is the Planning Commission's decision, I think, was inappropriate based on the evidence that we present. Can you please present the timeline, please? Yeah. So I put together a timeline of the significant dates here. So correct, Better For You ended their lease June 30th. The lease with Ocean View was, the start date was September 1st. It was negotiated sometimes in August. But the tenant, Ocean View, their business was in South America and China extensively. They distribute seafood from South America. So for most of the month of September, they were out of the country. They were not here to execute their business start. And I went into the planning department toward the end of September, talking to planners, saying the tenant is not in the country, could not submit all the necessary application. And there was an email in my the appeal that shows clearly there was an email sent by planner Jennifer Lim with an intent to extend that September 30th deadline. The email was sent to me on September 26th. Upon their return, Ocean View submitted the two applications, application action and zoning clearance, and received an email approval from Jennifer Lim on October 15th. These are all documented email. So the new, and fast forward, Ocean View tried to set up their operation because it's a seafood processing and distribution business. The employee that they assigned to set up this process left the company toward the end of 2024 in December. So they could not move all the equipment, and my understanding is the process is extensive and the equipment is complicated, and they could not find the right employee to move up from San Diego, that's where they're based off, to set up the line. So what they end up doing is just shipping some of their products that are completed from their San Diego facility, mostly canned food and dry seafood. And so they were distributing those products while trying to find the appropriate staffing to try to set up their processing, but they just weren't able to do it. And the only thing they did was to ship the dry product, completed product. Can you show the slide of where it says Ocean Products? I'm sorry, yeah. So just a quick look at some of the products that they actually, you just go through these. So these are canned abalone, dry sea cucumbers, packaged. So these are all dry stuff that they, yeah, next slide, please. Sorry. And so they were just using the facility to store and distribute to their existing clients in the Bay Area, which they have a few. That was the point of them trying to set up an operation in Northern Cal. So these are like, you can see dry products that they ship from San Diego. And within my appeal, there are shipping documents that you can see Exhibit 6 in the file that I submitted. There are shipping documents from San Diego to Millbrae of their products for distribution and storage. And they only, they kept a minimum crew, one person to staff, because they just couldn't set up their operation. So that's what they did: store the product, completed product, and distribute it when there's, and when there's a request from their existing clientele. So that's their operation. And what's important is that they actually set up they have an ongoing PG&E account since October until July. Who would set up those accounts and maintain ongoing, active account if they did not intend or did not occupy the place? That's an ongoing, and yet the city planner decided just totally ignore that. Now let me address the issue of the lack of water usage. It makes sense because they weren't able to set up their operation. All they did was storage and distribute, and it's a minimal staffing because that's not they wanted to distribute the stuff that what they can, but they were not able to do distribution. So there was no processing, very minimal staffing, not even full time. The guy just comes in a couple of times a week and send out stuff when there's requests to the existing customer, the Asian markets mostly. And the lack of water usage is not a proof of lack of business activity. It's an assumption, it's unproven assumption. Can you please go to the transcript number 2? This is a transcript from our October 20th commission hearing. So where you see Mr. Morganson was asked by Commissioner Chan, actually, yeah, this transcript number 2, right. Actually, that was a question asked by Chairperson Davis regarding the water usage reading. And it's clear that Mr. Morganson says there are many meters that register 0 all the time in Millbrae. Does that mean all those meters have no activity? Clearly, that's an unproven assumption that the city is based on such an important property right decision, just based on water reading. I mean, he clearly noted that there are many 0 readings in this city. Can you conclusively say that they're all 0 activity? So let's move on. With regard to the use of toilet, I consulted with a commercial plumber, and he has a statement, and it's in your Exhibit 4, that he doesn't think intermittent or just sparing, not regular flushing of a toilet actually necessarily register in a big warehouse like that. That's his opinion. And again, I want to bring your attention, there is an existing PG&E account set up by Ocean View. It's an active existing account for 8 months. So that's a use of utility. So there was shipment from San Diego that we receive and distribution to existing customers to address the issue of business license. Now, the business license was applied on October 17. It's lawfully pending. It is not denied. There was a request from the city to schedule a fire inspection to validate the fire, the fire system. The Ocean View contacted the fire department and was told, and you have an email from the fire marshal that says the fire inspection they can't do it unless all the equipment that are used in the operation have to be in place. That's what they were told by the fire marshal. So, and further, they received 3 requests for fire inspection, and each time they told them, we are not able to set up our operation because we don't have the personnel to do it. And they say, call us back when you have it set up. So, and also, a lawfully pending business license is an administrative issue, not a planning issue. Planning authority should not conflate administrative issue with planning authority. So that's why I think the issue of the business license is irrelevant. And so the Planning Commission has unfairly and unjustly shifted all the burdens onto the citizen and totally absolving the planning department's mistakes. So allow me to reiterate. So there is unambiguous approval of non-conforming use was given. And we reasonably depend on the department's actions, and to retroactively revoking this approved use 9 months after the fact is detrimental. And this resolution, if stopping it is not, does not undermine the public policy. But what's more important is I've owned this property for 17 years with the intent to develop. I've spent countless amount of money. Please go to the slide with the architect and the hotel. Since 2016, I've engaged, you might even know this company, this architect, Form 4, and then so this is 2016. We've had 2 separate architectural firms working on this, and it all turned out that this project is just it's not viable at this point. Please go to the part where we show the hotel development, the hotel values, please. So I wanted to develop this, but what's showing it's please go down to the page. The second page showed this was an agreement in 2016. That was my first effort with Form 4. And then the design cell was more recent. So I've engaged and spent a lot of money on consultant and architects on this. So please go to the value, hotel value. So why this is not feasible? Please look, the hotel that was built across the Marriott residence, which opened in 2021, the per room cost was $570,000+ per room. Please go down the next page. For a similar hotel that's in a 4 Point in South San Francisco, it was sold October of last year for $175,248. And you go down further on the page, the projected per room price into 2029 is only $234. In other words, the construction cost for a hotel development in the Bay Area is not viable. If you could buy a hotel for $175,000 and it's going to cost you $500,000, there's no developer. We've marketed this for years. There has not been, for my 17 years, I've had offers to buy, but there has not been one hotel development. And if you go down to, I know I'm running out of time, sorry. Give me a little. So as to the retail development, please go to the exterior slide. Yeah, so you can see the retail center next door was developed way in advance without taking into account this parcel. The way it's built, please go to the next slide. you can see it's totally blocked off. Any traffic flow, any visibility, and any retail development will have an impossible time trying to attract any viable tenant. And because of it's just totally blocked off. So as a retail site, it's also not viable. So that's why we think that I think allowing the non-conforming use is the best option for now. And the JC Kitchen, they provide jobs and provide services and benefit to the community. And there are very few industrial property left in Millbrae, like 4 buildings out of the whole city of Millbrae, whereas, next door, Burlingame has 400,000 square feet. So to preserve the use is the best use going forward. And allowing this ruling to stand is to shut out all economically viable use and lead to a blighted property with no viable development in sight. Sorry, thank you for indulging me.
You done?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Before I open up for questions, legal, Ms. Tran, do you have any legal overview for us or respond to any of the property owner's legal argument here?
No, I don't, not at this moment. Thank you.
All right, okay, just do a hand raise if and when you feel like it's important for you to speak up. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Anyone on the council have any questions for the appellant? Councilmember Nguyen?
So it was mentioned that was Jennifer Lin or a planner gave the approval. Is that correct, based on the statement? Okay. Can we confirm that this person, the information that was presented to this person was accurate? Like the facts that was presented to this person, that she had everything in order, or was that not known?
As far as I know, everything presented was accurate. I have no doubt. I have no reason to doubt what the planner information would be. As a citizen, we rely on the staff of the city to provide us with accurate. I'm not even a lawyer. So if we come in and we request and we fill in all the necessary paperwork that we're told, as far as we know, that's accurate. We would have no reason to doubt.
Can we confirm that the statements were accurate?
Sure, yes, Mr. Mayor, if I bring up Director Andy Mogensen. My understanding is that Jennifer Lim did not approve the use. There was some correspondence that she would look into it and get back, but the use was never approved. And it was clearly after 90 days, as you've heard in both presentations, the 90 days had lapsed both from the applicant and from staff, but it was never approved.
Did she have any approval authority?
If I can bring up our community development director. So she reviews it. It goes through the community development director and it's vetted through a process.
Okay, thank you.
The appellant, can we have the director speak, please? Thank you. Director.
So the question is, did the city issue an approval? Did Jennifer Lin issue an approval? No, she did not.
Yeah, we heard you. Yeah, thank you. And any other questions, Councilmember?
No.
All right, Councilmember Rinaldi.
First off, thank you for the conversation the other day. It's very
Thank you for your time.
informative, and appreciate you coming out tonight to provide us more context. My question revolves around the business license. I understand Ocean View Marine, when they first moved in, had plans to treat it as a food manufacturing facility. Is that correct?
Processing. Right?
Processing.
Seafood wet processing.
Right. And the conundrum with the business license and why it wasn't issued is because CCFD was waiting for them to produce said machinery that they were going to use, but they never produced it.
So the issue was that the person that knows how to set up this operation left, and they didn't have the right person to set up the line, the production line.
Yeah.
So that the equipments were not, there was nobody to do that.
So when did Ocean View Marine know that they weren't going to do food processing within the facility? and change their business model to use it as just a warehouse? Because it seems like the business license right now, it looks like it operated as a business without a business license for quite some time. And it, to me, at least from my perception, it's falling back on, well, CCFD told us that they weren't gonna issue us a business license because we didn't have the machinery. But when did Ocean View know that they weren't gonna have the machinery and they were gonna change their business use / business model for that property?
So their intention was always to set up a processing operation in Millbrae, and they continued that search into 2025 while just storing and distributing. And in January, they came to me and said that I don't think we're going to be able to do, because it's a big facility, to just do distribution. They need to do the processing to be a profitable business model. They asked if we could find a subtenant, because they are paying rent, and that sale that you saw is not enough to cover the expenses. So their main operation was always processing first, distribution second. So when they couldn't do that, they came to me in January and said, we don't think we can do this because we can't continue to bleed money this way, because the little sale that they were making just was not going to be sufficient.
Quick question for you. What was the rent that they were paying monthly?
The rent, I recall, on the lease was 30, I believe it's like 35,000 per month, triple net. Don't have the lease in front of me now.
So they're operating at a loss, obviously not a sustainable business model.
Correct.
As far as the sublease goes with Lucid, were you allowing for any use of utilities such as electrical
No,
with them?
no. And also to address the Lucid actually started with Better For You. I don't know exactly when. They licensed the parking area to Lucid, and when Better For You left, Lucid asked me to continue that licensing, and that's where we enter into a July 2024 agreement with cancellation, I believe 90 days by either party. So it's not a lease per se, it's more of a parking agreement that is a temporary setup for them.
Got it. And you guys were going month to month with that agreement with a 90-day option?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And, going back to Ocean View Marine, how are they able to operate as a business if they don't have a business license for that long? Because I'm kind of baffled, we don't have any record of any revenue that was generated for sales tax for the city?
Right. So again, they were just distributing completed finished product that they had always distributed. Before, they were just shipping it from San Diego to the Bay Area, their clients in the Bay Area. So that's what they continue to do, to receive orders from San Diego and then send out from Millbrae, now that they have a warehouse where they store their product. So they did not have a completed business license, but they apply, and with every intention to finalize, but was told by the fire department, your processing equipment and appliance need to be installed. And I'm sorry, please continue.
I think I'm going to let my peers ask some more questions while I kind of ponder over the notes that I've taken.
Okay. May I address the statement by Mr. Morganson and Mr. Williamson? There was a clear email from Jennifer Lim in my appeal, documenting an intent to extend the non-conforming use and a clear approval. To say otherwise goes against what's black and white. It's email. You cannot undo it. It's there. So.
Okay, all right. Any other questions from the council? Hold on one second. Let me finish on this side and we'll come back. Anyone else? All Go ahead, Councilmember Nguyen.
So about the, your plumber, was there any standards or methodology that you can share with us on how he assessed a counter opinion on water usage?
No, I just had a conversation with him that, because I think the argument that the city is making is that even as far back as when Better For You was there, they registered no noticeable water reading back in 2023, even before Better For You ended their lease. They're saying, so I think it's reasonable if all you do is just flush a toilet once in a while, it doesn't read. And going back to the audio transcript, it's clear that Mr. Morganson said there are many meters that have zero reading. So how is that proof of lack of activity? Can you conclusively say that? Or is there something with the meter? Have you evaluated that? No, it's an assumption that they base their planning decision on.
So maybe a question for the staff, city staff, is what was the method that we used to assess water usage?
As I understand, it's the meter reading, but I'm looking at emails from Jennifer Lim to the applicant dated October 9th, clearly 90 days after the non-conforming, that says, "It was nice speaking with you this morning. As discussed, please apply for a zoning clearance application by filling out the following items." That was October 9th, which is clearly after the 90 days. So there's not just one instance, there's various instances through the couple of years that we can go back and say, okay, 90 days lapsed, 90 days lapsed, 90 day lapsed. We do deal with illegal uses quite a bit, but they're illegal uses. They are not legal uses. And so therefore, if somebody's squatting in a building or doing something like that that we have no knowledge of, that doesn't mean that the use exists legally. And I think the economic, if I may, the economics that the applicant has presented are irrelevant. This is just about a use, and if the use was vacated pursuant to the local law, the municipal code, more than 90 days. So please keep that in mind.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Applicant, appellant, if you can go back to your timeline that you presented in one of your slides, please.
Sure.
Okay. So October 15, 2024, you said Jennifer Lim, our planner, email Ocean View for non-conforming use approval.
Yes.
Can you provide an evidence to that?
It's in the exhibit, one of the exhibits that I supply.
Okay. Which one is it? Is it an email? You said it's an email that gives
That's
you a
correct.
clear approval.
Yes. I believe it's exhibit 2. And if you go to the exhibit 1, that's where Ms. Lim emailed an intent to extend the non-conforming use. The staff is preparing the letter to extend the non-conforming use. It's clear, it's black and white. To claim otherwise is baffling.
All right, we'll get back in a second here. So Ocean View lease start in September 1st, 2024.
Right.
And then they move in right away, or is that somewhat after?
Somewhat after, as I was explaining, they were out of the
30
country.
days or whatever?
They were out of the country and turned in early October.
Okay, all right. And then according to your timeline, when did Ocean View cease operation?
Ocean View cease operation. So this actually is, in January 2025, when Ocean View asked me to find a subtenant, the brokers marketed the property for lease and for sale, and they found a new tenant/buyer in this year, May of 2025. And as far as we know, the owner, Ocean View, and the new tenant, JC Kitchen, there was no issue, no question in our mind that there were any issue with non-conforming use.
Hold on. My question is clear to you.
Sure.
When did Ocean View cease operations at 370 Adrian Road?
They vacated at the end of June 2025
June 2025.
in anticipation of a close of escrow.
That's when Ocean View vacated.
They vacated, but they still on the lease.
When did they cease operation?
June 2025.
Okay. And throughout this time, you're talking about roughly 9 months, where Ocean View, according to you, were operating in the property.
Correct.
They're not food processing, they're using it as a warehouse.
Correct.
And you mentioned in your own word, the guy comes in once or twice a week,
Correct.
shipping out products, sea cucumbers and the like, according to your photos.
Correct.
Did they ever obtain a business license? And it sounds like the answer is no.
The answer is no, it's lawfully pending.
My question is clear.
Right.
Did they not obtain a business license?
They could not because there was no fire inspection.
Okay, so, and you mentioned that they could not obtain it is because the equipment wasn't there for the processing.
Correct.
So therefore, they continue as a warehouse and continue operating as a warehouse distribution without a business license for 9 months. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay. And when did you lease it out to Lucid again? When did they begin to lease it out to Lucid? I think you said it started for better for you, right?
Yeah. I believe it's 2023, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably
And when did
predates me.
And when did Lucid reaches out to you and ask you to allow them to continue to use it as a parking structure, a parking lot?
When Better For You informed them that their lease is ending in on June 30th.
24.
24, and they were leaving the facility. That's when Lucid reached out to me through my brokers.
Right. And then you allow them to use it as a parking lot.
Correct.
Did you ever did you ever obtain a business license for that?
No.
How long has that been?
July 2024.
Till?
Currently, yes.
So until now, you're still operating and leasing it to Lucid as a parking lot without a valid business license?
Yes.
Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Ms. Mayor, if I may, for the right, Lucid has a valid business license, so they don't need a business license for the parking lot. Lucid as an operator has a valid business license.
Lucid itself as a business is valid to operate a business in Millbrae based on the location where they are at, across the street. However, I forgot the name of your business, but whatever that name is, if you intend to lease it out for profit to another business entity as a parking lot, you do need a business license. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
Well, Lucid has a business license, so they would need approval of the use.
They would need approval of the use, but also it's a different address because the business license that they did have pertains to a facility across the street, not 370 Adrian Road.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to also, if I may, the appellant claimed that the person that was employed left the company in December 2024, so they couldn't move the equipment in. That's clearly December 24 is after 90 days anyway. I think it's irrelevant.
So, but a bigger question there is, they never had a food processing facility
Correct.
established, based on your testimonial.
That's correct.
And also you have
It's only as a warehouse at best,
Correct.
and it's operating for 9 months and on end without ever successfully obtaining a business license, even as a warehouse.
Correct.
And Mr. Mayor, just also for the record, I bring your attention to attachment 5 of the staff report. That's an email from Revolution Foods, who purchased Better For Your Foods in 2019. And an email from that company, there's 3 bullet points there, that in June of 2023, Revolution Foods vacated the Millbrae facility, consolidating operations to San Lorenzo facility. That was June of 23. Lucid Motors subleased the parking area, so that must have been June of 2023 when Revolution Foods, not the owner, it's here before us, but Revolution Foods still had control of the property. And then June 2024, it says all of Revolution Foods material was completely out of the facility. Lucid Motors continued the lease. I have an email stating Ross McCook as the contact at Lucid. It's so attachment 5, to answer your question about when did the lease start with Lucid, it started with Revolution Foods in June of 23. Attachment 5.
Okay, all right. Any other questions from the council?
So your analysis on the cost per room, the feasibility, right, of a hotel, I have some questions around that. What were the scenarios that you picked out for these pricing? Because I think there's different types of hotel formats, right?
Correct.
And because they have different type of formats, did you pick one that worked out for this argument, or could you share some insights on what the analysis was?
So if you could go to the hotel development, so you could see our goal with my partner has always been to do a business hotel. So it's essentially similar to, I think there's an agreement. No, it's the slide would be hotel development. There's an agreement that I actually enter into. You could see it's a joint development agreement. If you go up the page a little bit, you can see it is a, go up a little bit, please. So it's a home suite. So similar to Residence Inn in terms of its level of service. It's a limited service hotel.
Does that control for like square footage, space, density?
Yes, so there's a standard. So these large operators, they have standard requirements for the room, for the hotel, for the layout and the size of the room. And the analysis that I presented is a 4-point hotel in South San Francisco. It's a completed, stabilized hotel, similar to the Residence in terms of its level of service. It's a limited service 3-star business hotel that was sold last year for $175,000 per room.
Does that also control for the distance between SFO and the hotels?
So my understanding is when they do these analyses, it's like I believe it's like a 10-mile radius from SFO. All the hotels in this area considered as a submarket. So that hotel in South San Francisco, and if you think about it, when you drive up San Francisco, it's on your right-hand side. South San Francisco is very obvious. So it's a completed, stabilized hotel at similar level as the Residence Inn across the street in the Millbrae station, which was built for $570,000 per room in 2021. And it just got something similar. It was sold for $175,000 last year. So any development going forward is not viable for, and looking at this agreement that I entered into in 2016, we did a lot of work on this. And back then, this didn't pencil out. And fast forward in 2023, we submitted the planning action again. And this time it's even worse because the construction costs just kept going up. And it just does not seem viable in the foreseeable future. You can see my efforts has gone way back for 17 years.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that this is just not a one-off, a hotel you picked to make a clean argument,
No.
that there's other hotels that have been considered and that they're one-to-one, as you mentioned. Like, have you done analysis on different hotels in the general area besides the ones you picked out?
So the report that I submitted is a market analysis by our brokers of all the hotels at that level in this greater San Francisco area. That is the only hotel that was sold. There has been no action. There's no development for the last 3 to 5 years, and nothing going forward either on record. There's no development at all for, in the 10-mile radius SFO submarket. And that 4 Point is the only hotel that was sold. There's nothing else. There are other 1 or 2 star hotels that are, we're not even talking about that category, right? We're talking about a similar level of, home suite, 4 Point, so that's the type of, that's the level of hotels that I've been looking at and hoping for God knows how long. I've spent, I've had contracted with 2 architectural firms, and I think Form 4 work on the Residence Inn. They know the market, and the cost estimate back then was not feasible. Now it's even more unlikely just because of the cost of construction, and it just keeps going up.
Yeah, Ms. Mayor, I'd like to focus this back on the 90 days. I think this is immaterial. We can bring back economics of Residence Inn. That's throwing off close to $1 million a year just in TOT. The Hong Kong Flower Lounge was recently purchased by a hotel developer. Other hotel developers are coming in, kicking the tires. So I think, COVID issues aside, I would like to get focused back on what the agenda item is at hand, which is the 90 days that the illegal nonconforming use was not occupied, therefore abandoning the use. And that's the question before the council tonight, not the speculative economics of property.
Any other questions from the council?
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of Ocean View's operations, did you say it was just 1 employee that was there on a part-time basis?
Correct.
Okay. And question for city staff. So, there was that email from a city employee shortly before the 90-day period expired, showing an intent to potentially extend the non-conforming use. Is there a mechanism for being able to do that? Like, is that something that the city could potentially do if there was a clear intent by the applicant to, get the business license application in?
That question was raised by staff, and the answer was no. That's one of the reasons why this letter was never issued.
Okay.
So when you look at this email, I think that, but the result was no. You cannot extend a non-conforming use. There's no mechanism in the municipal code to extend a time frame of extinguished use.
And if I could just add to that, so the municipal code specifically provides that if a non-conforming use is wholly discontinued for a period of 90 days, such use shall be determined to have been abandoned. So Director Mogensen is correct. There's nothing in the municipal code that gives any flexibility to staff to deem an extension. It's mandatory under the code.
Okay. And the applicant had mentioned that, it was not, that business license was not denied. It's legally pending. Is that a status that we see? Do we have businesses that are operating lawfully without a business license in Millbrae, pending something that needs to be done, in terms of a fire inspection or something along those lines? Is there like some type of...
It's a binary question. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like a temporary use permit or conditional use permit.
We don't have a temporary business license.
Okay. What about, Just trying to think of other examples. I've noticed it appears that in the Sarah Station area, there appears to be some type of temporary parking that is being used there currently. Is that a conforming use in that location? I don't believe
There is a
it's-
provision for transit providers in the station area specifically.
And they do have business
And
licenses.
they do have a business license, and they are a Millbrae-based business.
And I think to just build upon the response to the Vice Mayor's question, you cannot operate legally in the city of Millbrae without a business license. And so we're constantly chasing those types of businesses and code enforcement that set up, they don't have a business license. Some of them actually leave the facility because they don't have a business license. And so, yeah, it's not a legal use if you don't have a business license.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just have a couple quick questions for city staff. In regards to the no water usage, do we have property owners that rent out their properties and sometimes they remain vacant for a while because they're looking for a potential renter, the right one? And let's say perhaps for a couple months, there's no activity at the residence. What would their water meter reflect if that were the case?
If it's a vacant property, the water's not being used, it's going to be zero. Sometimes water meters are connected to landscaping. If you're not watering your landscaping, it'll be zero. It's a simple device. It just measures cubic feet usage of water. It's a simple analog per keeper.
And how many flushes of a toilet would provide a tick on that CCFM meter?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I mean, your typical toilet is going to use about 5 flushes. Your average toilet would be 1 cubic feet. If you have a high efficiency toilet, more flush. If it's a low efficiency toilet, if it's a really old toilet, you're going to use a lot more water, so it's going to tick off faster. But on average, it's about 5.
And there was no ticks to report back except for one anomaly, I believe?
Yeah, I
in the
mean,
packet?
we have the list of utility bills in attachment 6, and for months it was 0. There was 1 month where it registered 200. 200 cubic feet of water. It could be someone filling up a water tank, because a lot of water tanks are 200 feet. Maybe they were spraying down dust on the property outside. One possibility. I'm only speculating, but that was the anomaly. A lot of, so that's the only, in that entire time period, it's just that 1 month. All the other months are 0, and it's identified there in exhibit attachment 6. And to PG&E power bills, you've got to have your power on. I mean, you have a fire alarm system, so whether or not your building is occupied, you've got to have the power on.
Thank you.
All right, good. So this is a public hearing, so I think at this point, without any further questions, we'd like to open the public hearing. Members of the public who wish to speak on this item, please come forward and raise your hand with the speaker slip for those in chamber, and do a raise hand for those who is on Zoom. And we will limit each speaker to 3 minutes. Any speaker slip?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker slip, but we do have one hand raised online.
Go ahead.
All right, the first speaker is Ann Snyder. Please accept the unmute.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. For the applicant, I'm a former councilwoman. I stepped down in December, so am somewhat familiar with this. I do want to congratulate staff and the applicant. I listened to the Planning Commission meeting. It's a complicated situation, but it seems like there are a set of rules and rules to be followed with that. I did have one question. I appreciate the mayor asking about any ex parte communication, but because we are in campaign season, I just also wanted to ask if any council member has received any campaign contributions, and just to clear that on that point. With that, as a city manager does not want to go to hotels, the Resident Inn opened in 2023. Mount Burlingame just opened a new hotel a few months ago, just a few blocks away from this one, going for about $240 a night, the Hampton Inn on Old Bayshore. So hotels are being built. Within the 10-mile area, there are 2 other hotels under construction. Thank you and good luck. From my perspective, thank you, staff. You've done a good job. We support our staff, and I'm sorry. I hope that you vote to comply with what staff is asking you to do tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, and there are no other speakers, Mayor.
Okay, all right. So with that said, I'd like to close the public hearing. Can I get a first and a second? A motion and a second, I should say. All right. Do we have a second for closing the public hearing? Okay. Your votes, please.
The public hearing is closed by a vote of 5-0.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much. Now we have a little bit of time for the rebuttal. Does the staff have any further comments? It's not mandatory.
I think I've said everything. I think I've made my point. I mentioned the PG&E, water use being 0. The burden of proof is on the applicant here. I just want to point out something that I brought up in my rebuttal at Planning Commission. You know, typically when a business is operating, you've got a lot more evidence on the record from a business. Running a business requires people, documentation, time cards, logs. You're going to have, a lot more records to show what you were doing and what was going on. And through this whole process, what we've received are these 7 invoices and testimony from the property owner. So, we've pointed out all along the burden of proof is on the applicant. We've gotten minimal documentation from them showing active business use in this site. So I think the record speaks. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Director.
And if I could
City
also
Attorney?
add some legal analysis. So what I'm hearing is that the applicant, the appellant, is also expressing perhaps some dissatisfaction with the zoning. But what you have before you tonight is not a request to rezone the property. The property owner is welcome to make that request in the future to initiate a rezoning, but that can't be done tonight, and it's not within the City Council's purview to make any changes to the municipal code as it's written. I agree with Director Mogensen that the substantial evidence in the record is clear that the non-conforming warehouse and distribution use has been abandoned and that the property owner has not submitted sufficient information to rebut that evidence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The appellant, do you have any final comments for us?
Very much so. I think the resolution clearly says that, or part of it says that it's, I don't remember all, verbatim, that it's a wholly abandoned, but it was not. The lease was signed in August to start in September 1st. And going back to the city staff's continued denial of an approval given is, the email shows clearly an approval was given. And also, can you bring up the audio transcript? And I want to show during the question answering session where Commissioner, I think one, please, yes. So Commissioner Chan asked, so why wasn't the zoning clearance approval in October denied if it had lapsed? It was denied because that was a mistake. That was Mr. Morganson clearly stating that if there is there was an approval, if there was a mistake, it was committed by the planning department. And as citizens, we have to have trust in what the interaction with the city. If the city can 9 months later come back and say, oops, what we told you is not right, you are left to handle with the consequences of they call it mistake. Whether the municipal code has any room for an extension, that's not something I know or expected to know. As a citizen, my interaction with the city is to rely on the staff. And clearly you see the email with an intent to extend, and approval was given. So as far as we know, the non-conforming use was never abandoned. So I don't understand how they can look at something black and white and continue to deny its existence. It's there.
Okay, thank you for your comment. I just want to give an opportunity to our legal counsel. Councilor Tran, do you have anything for us?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to know if there's any ambiguity about the term wholly discontinued or abandoned, that it is the job of the City Council to, per the municipal code, consider all the pertinent facts and judge the intent of the provisions in question and to render a determination. Please let me know if you have any questions about that.
Thank you, Ms. Tran.
Thank you.
On that note, if I would go back to attachment 5, with the email from Revolution Foods that they vacated the Millbrae facility in June of 2023, I think this is important because wholly abandoned would mean no intention to return. And clearly in June of 23, Revolution Foods had no intention to return. So therefore, I would say that that would be wholly abandoned. And so June of 23, even if we move forward to, September of 24, that's more than 90 days, which is the question at hand. And that's why Revolution Foods subleased it then to Lucid Motors. So again, the question in front of the council is 90 days abandonment. And I could make the argument that in June of 23, it was wholly vacated by Revolution Foods. And more than a year later, an applicant came back with no business license, no approval, no building permit or anything, just speculation. And so I think there's, like I said, there's many different 90-day periods that have lapsed.
Okay, just one final comment from the appellant, and then we got to move on.
So the issue of better for you, in my appeal, I believe is exhibit number 3. There is an email from the founder of Better For You that dispute what the city claim of the timeline. The founder of Better For You emailed saying that the person that the city referenced is an employee or was an employee of Better Revolution, but the founder of Better For You, who later joined Revolution Foods, stated the opposite. They stay until the end of June 2024. It's in the email attachment exhibit, I believe exhibit 3 or 4 that I submitted. So she is still an owner of Revolution Food as of today. So that is direct contradiction from an owner of Revolution Food to the statement that the city made or the planning department.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll just say I don't know about that, but we do know that Revolution Foods purchased Better For You back in 2019. So it wasn't that Revolution Foods purchased Better For You in 23 or 24. Revolution Foods purchased Better For You foods in 2019. And then in 23, they fully vacated the site and moved everything, consolidated to their San Lorenzo facility.
This person with the email clearly dispute that. And she is still today an owner, a partner at Revolution Food.
Okay, all right. Any other, okay, so I think that's the end of all the presentations of testimonials and facts. So now it's time for the council to deliberate. And so the hearing is now closed and the matter is now before you. Anyone? Mr. Vice Mayor?
I have a question for legal counsel. Is the What's the level of, like, the burden of proof here? Is it preponderance of the evidence, or?
The burden is that there has to be substantial evidence of abandonment, but I'll let Ms. Tran advise you on as to how you should make your determination.
Ms. Tran?
That's my understanding as well. I agree with Ms. Liu.
Any other council members? Okay. I mean, if there's no further comment, I would be happy to entertain a motion if anybody wants to make one, based on the evidence that's being presented. Okay. I guess I could start. I mean, the question before us is whether or not this non-conforming distribution use has lapsed. I think based on testimony that we're hearing, I don't think it has even been set up in terms of it being a distribution, or other than just to the best of the testimony being presented, assuming that they're correct, but still lack a business license to prove that it in fact exists, that there was no processing ever being at site based on the former tenants. And there is no proof that this food processing actually existed. In fact, there is no proof that even a business existed. I mean, at best, we heard testimony tonight that a business has been illegally operating at that site without a proper business license for over a year in various different forms, whether it is warehouse or distributions or parking. So I think, yeah, it is a tough situation in the sense that I sympathize the owner's displeasure on how the land use designation is right now and how he was not able to develop it the way he wanted it. But that's not, this is not a remedy for that. I mean, if you so choose, you are certainly welcome to ask for a rezoning of the property that you have to a use that you believe would give you greater economic value. And we'll be happy to process this application if you were to submit that. We will process this, faithfully and judiciously, certainly. But in my mind, is there an abandonment of this non-conforming use? I believe the answer is yes. The abandonment had occurred. So, but that's based on the testimony that I'm hearing this evening. And whether or not economic feasibility of building a hotel and all of this is a question of what is the proper use of that site based on what gives the property owner the economic value that's required. And to that end, like I said a moment ago, if you feel that the current use is not the highest and best use of your property, you're welcome to apply for a zoning amendment. But that's not the question before us tonight. Council? Mr. Rinaldi.
Thanks, Mayor Fung. I'd have to agree with the points that you just made. I find it very hard to see that there was a business that was operating there that went for 9 months without a business license, 0 water usage with 1 anomaly for 17 months, and 1.5 years with no business license to allow Lucid to park vehicles on the property. In my mind, if you're running a business, you need to have some type of business license. And being able to say, hey, look, we don't know exactly what we're doing with the property for 9 months and use that as an excuse why CCFD can't come in because you want to change the business model. And I'm not seeing the evidence of that. To the point that Mayor Fung made, I think it's clear that you do have other options if you want to apply to have it rezoned for an amendment. So I think there are options for you. But looking at the evidence we have here, I'm having a hard time connecting the dots, seeing that there was a business that was occupying the property and conducting business out of there for that extent of time. So those are my comments.
Okay. Any other council? Councilmember Riley, and then we'll come back to Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for all of you share your thoughts on the both sides of the story. And I thank our city staff to work hard to get this to today. When you run business, you always need a license before open. So this is over a year, is so long. Of course, our city staff will help you to speed up the process. So my question for our city manager, is any way we can help this owner to speed the process if he still wanna get a business license?
Yeah, so if there's a business license for use, it's allowed under the zoning code and the Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan, most certainly. It's part of our economic development objectives that we will help facilitate as quickly as possible. Business license permits, anything to assist our businesses.
Thank you. Our Millbrae welcome to all the business owners coming to here to do business. Under one condition, we need you have a business license. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you. This is a difficult decision. I don't think any of us like being in the middle of planning commission appeals on either side of the aisle here. I think the issue that the applicant did not have a business license was concerning, that the Ocean View did not operate with a business license. It didn't appear like there was much activity other than the occasional employee coming in, and that it was not ever used as a processing industrial center. It sounds like there was, a good faith effort by the applicant to get the space leased out. I am a bit concerned that it sounded like there was some bad information provided by the city at one point along the way, but based on the legal advice, that's, I think, immaterial to the decision before us. I would encourage, if this appeal were to be denied, I would encourage the property owner and city staff to have discussions about a path forward here. I think I am concerned that the economics are not currently there to develop this into a hotel type of development, and certainly do not want to see this be a blighted vacant property for many years to come. So I hope that there is a path forward, perhaps a conditional use permit, something along those lines, and would really encourage those discussions to continue after tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilmember Nguyen.
Yeah, so I was trying to keep an open mind about the applicant's arguments. A lot of them were pretty good, especially in terms of feasibility, assuming that information is accurate. What I had problems with was it just seemed like a lot of circumstantial comments, especially around the water usage. It wasn't clear to me, at least. It was just one plumber saying something else. I specifically asked for standards or operating procedures, or anything that is official, so we can have higher confidence in the methodology in which this plumber used to assess the counterpoint. I trust the city in terms of its methods to assess water. And I think that's the smoking gun, right? No one, in my mind at least, it would be, you'd see some water usage essentially, but none was solved for months on end. And I just think that's quite obvious what that's about. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So given all of this, and do you want to make a motion in terms of this decision before us? Could you state your motion?
Yes, motion to deny the appeal.
Okay. We have a motion from the Vice Mayor? Oh, okay, thank you. You have a second from Councilmember Nguyen. What I would just add is that no matter how the vote goes down tonight, my encouragement to the appellant is just exactly what the Vice Mayor said a moment ago, and I also mentioned that as well. You know, either a conditional use permit or some sort of a rezoning to a use that befits your investment profile, right? Whatever that might be, whatever you believe is the highest and best use of your property. We're here to give everybody a pathway to success. I mean, you've owned this property for 17 years, as you said it yourself. We want you to be able to use it in a way that you believe it's going to generate economic interest for you. But if the current zoning does not befit your investment model or how you see fit in terms of how you're using it, you're welcome to apply for a zoning change. And so that it fits into the future use of this property. We want you to succeed. But what's in front of us here is whether or not this non-conforming warehouse distribution processing has lapsed, and I think we'll see in a moment what the vote is, but I believe it has lapsed. But doesn't change the fact that you have the right to apply for a future use that is different from this based on a zoning amendment. I just want to make sure that you understand those options in front of you. So with that said, Council, ready for the vote?
The motion to uphold the Planning Commission determination of abandonment of a non-conforming use in retail commercial zoning district in Millbrae Station area, Pacific Plan area at 370 Adrian Road, it passed by a motion of 5-0.
Thank you so much. And that concludes this particular item. And thank you for all the parties for your participations this evening. And that concludes the public hearing item. So with that said, next. The hearing is closed, the appellant. Yeah. Yes. Thank you for your comment.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just real quick on that note.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, as the council said and as directed, we would be happy to work with the property owner and expedite any application that he may bring forward in good faith and really assist to the best of our ability.
Thank you so much. So that, unless any council comment this evening? Anyone? So I'd like to adjourn this meeting this evening at 8:33 in memory of the, in the wake of 151 soul lost in the fire in Hong Kong, in this massive blaze that just burned down 7 buildings, with 155 souls losing their lives. One of them is actually a firefighter as well. And I do know, because a friend of mine who is a resident of Millbrae had his mom living in Hong Kong at the time, and she was part of the 151. And with as many ties to folks in the city in Hong Kong, I do know that that may not necessarily be an isolated case. So with that said, you know, I offer condolences to all the family who are affected by this, you know, horrible tragedy. And again, it just all remind all of us how firefighters are and our first responders, you know, they really put their lives on the line when it matters the most. So thanks to all the firefighters who continue to keep us safe every day. And, you know, may this kind of a tragedy never happen again anywhere. So we'll close this evening tonight in honor of those 151 souls who lost their lives. And I adjourn this meeting tonight at 8:35 p.m. Thank you all.